You've had all your fun, you've loved making every single mark on your face, and you've had an amazing life. But now you're looking at yourself and you want to make a few changes, and you maybe want to remove some of those physical marks on your face and just keep the memories. Clients think that there's a reset button for all these years of damage. They usually think they have a choice between two extremes. On one hand, you have the gentle treatments. They do work if done correctly. That can take 10 treatments per se to start seeing a result. They're gentler treatments, usually not with any severe downtime, but you do need to have multiple treatments to start seeing a real result with gentler treatments. On the other hand, you have the old school, very aggressive, but creates real change option. And it will make you look like you're out of a horror movie, leave your face raw, weeping, and locked inside for weeks. But what if I told you there is a happy medium and a third option? A laser that completely replaces the top layer of your skin. So that's the sun damage, skin, and rebuild your collagen, and has your back into social society, not having to be locked away within like 5 to 7 days, because there is a laser that does this. Again, there is downtime, like I said, back out into society within 5 to 7 days. You're still going to be raw, you're still going to have oozing, because that's what we've done. We've caused damage, it needs to heal, and that's part of the healing cascade. But it's not weeks locked inside a house while you do have an open wound on your face. So today we're going to do a bit of a dive into the Erbium laser. So the one that I use here is Katera Pearl laser, but going down to the raw bones of it, it's an Erbium laser. And let's explain what that is. So every different brand, every company are going to have a different name. So this one is Pearl, we go Pearl Fusion, Pearl Fractional. That's what Katera uses. There are also other ones out there like Edeka's, iMode, all these other ones. I think Chandler has one as well. But what it is it's an Erbium laser. So I'm going to try to explain the science and the physics into terms that you can understand, and explain why this is a heavyweight and something that should be considered when you're looking at doing a global skin renewal. And you need to remember as well, with all these treatments that I discuss here, you do not just have to have them on our face. They are perfectly suited to work on skin, which is over our entire body. So with that said, let's dive in to what the Erbium laser is and how it's going to work for you. So to understand the Erbium laser, or in this instance, why the Pearl is so incredibly unique, we have to look at the physics of the laser beam. So in the skin resurfacing world, lasers have historically been divided into two opposite camps, okay? So the Erbium NAG, or YAG laser, which is at 2,940 nanometers. And then you have the good old faithful CO2 laser, which is a much higher nanometer, and that sits at 10,600 nanometers. So to explain the difference simply, imagine that Erbium is like throwing a water balloon at a wall. Because Erbium is highly attracted to water inside the skin cells, it hits the surface and causes explosive vaporization. It literally blasts the top layer of the skin cells away instantly. It's great for peeling, but it leaves the skin completely raw, wet, and bleeding. And that's just me being very honest. You need to understand this before going into it, because again, we're burning tissue. This is a procedure, and I don't pretend to glorify or play down these treatments that we're talking about. I want to give you the real answers. So yes, you're going to be completely raw. We're creating a wound. Your wound cascade is going to do what the wound cascade does, which is the starting the healing process. And yeah, there may be blood and there's going to be weeping. And that's what's going to happen when we have an explosive vaporization. CO2, on the other hand, is like a slow burning campfire. So it doesn't vaporize the surface as aggressively, but it sends massive deep heat down into the skin. So while that heat is amazing for tightening, it does mean longer, more painful, depending on your pain tolerance, healing process. And again, everyone's pain level is subjective, but I'm just trying to explain it as broadly as I can. And again, if you do have a thorough consultation and you talk and communicate through any of these procedures, everything can be tailored and settings can be changed, which is why you need to talk and you need to communicate with your practitioner with any procedure that you have done, but in particular this one, because we can change the settings to still get you a result. So Katera did something pretty genius in my opinion, and I could be biased because I love this device and that's why I chose to invest in it. they engineered the pearl laser to use a completely unique crystal called the YSGG, which fires that 2719 nanometers very, very well. So this wavelength is sort of a unique hybrid technology. Think of it like a hybrid car that seamlessly switches between petrol and battery power. So the Erbium laser that they use, which is the 2790 nanometer wavelength, sits in the Goldilocks zone. And I love talking about the Goldilocks zone because this is what's been researched and this is what's been proven to work. There's lots of papers, there's lots of evidence out there. Not per se saying Katera itself, but saying that 2090 nanometer wavelength and how it's used and how it is set is like the sweet spot, okay? So it's a sweet spot between the Erbium and the CO2. Again, both technologies work amazingly. It's just how you hone in those settings and the technology to get the amazing results. So as I said, it is absorbed by water just enough to perform the ablation, which is a more gentle, it's very precise peeling of that very outer layer of the skin, which is where most of the damage of the skin sits. But it also sends out a perfectly controlled wave of heat deeper down to trigger this beautiful nanocollagenase, to trigger wave of heat deep down to trigger your collagen for building brand new bouncy collagen. That's what it's there to do. Instead of relying on liquid chemical peels that can run and drip or permeate unevenly, we are using computer guided laser physics to ensure a really precise treatment, a treatment that penetrates to the exact same depth each and every time that we actually fire it. And it's within micrometers. It's fantastic. But here is the absolute coolest part physiologically of the treatment, and that's the changes that happens with these Erbium treatments, especially with the pearl treatment that Katera, that my device here does. The main reason that I recommend it is it all comes down to a process called natural biological dressing. Very cool. Again, wounds, we love them, and we are creating a wound. Okay, so with traditional resurfacing lasers, the machine blasts away the top layer of the skin, exposing raw, delicate tissue, and it's left open to the air, right? And this causes intense oozing, weeping, high risk of infection, and a massive amount of moisture vaporized out of your skin, which is something that we don't always want to do, but we call it the transdermal water loss. So TEWL. I know all these amazing acronyms. The science and medical field love acronyms, okay? What it is, it's just taking all the water out of the skin. And as we know, we do need water in our skin, in our bodies, for it to be able to function correctly. So what this laser in particular does, it works like a bit of a trick, really. When the laser fires, it gently zaps and denatures or disables the top layer of damage. So that's your pigmented skin cells. But instead of blowing those cells off your face, it leaves them completely intact. So your old damaged skin cells instantly form a dry, sterile, and it's a natural protective bandage right over your face, and it's yours. So there's not going to be a negative reaction in the sense that you're going to have an allergic reaction to, say, tapes or bandages or ointments, because it's your own physical tissue. Your body will not reject it because it is yours. It's your DNA. So if you want to explain this in different terms, it is literally built-in biological screen protector, say for your phone, right? So just like you put a tempered glass protector on your brand new phone to stop it getting scratches, this laser leaves your old skin on the face to act as your physical shield. Okay, so it seals in 100% of your own skin's natural moisture and completely stopping that, painful ooze. It blocks dirt and bacteria from touching the fresh, brand new skin cells that are growing from underneath. That's what we've done. We cause trauma. We're not doing it for fun, because it's not. We're wanting it to create new skin, new cell growth, and that's what it does. But it keeps it sealed to protect you. So for 3 to 5 days, your skin will look and feel like you've had a very moderate sunburn. It's tight, it's dry, it's going to get slightly bronzed. You're going to go darker in appearance with the skin that we've treated, like a shiny old 1 cent or 2 cent piece that we used to have here in Australia. So that bronzy sort of color. That natural biological screen protector simply peels and slides away on its own because you're still able to wash your face, and you are going to follow your very strict aftercare, aren't you? So following your aftercare, especially with these sort of lasers, is super important, okay? But basically it's going to sit there. You're going to follow the aftercare prescribed to you by your practitioner because everyone's practice is different, but essentially it's going to slide away on its own. With myself, I have trust issues, and I tell everyone that. I actually get you to come in and see me on days 1, 3, and 7 because I want to see how it's healing. I want to help you get the best results. We do LED, and I just want to help you get the best results possible. So it will slide away on its own, and when we say that, it means that we don't have to do that weird peely snake thing because that's going to cause scarring. Do not peel it, leave it alone. But I want to help you sort of debride it off very gently and make sure everything's healing as it should do. If we're seeing anything that is out of the ordinary, we can sort of address it there on day 1, 3, and 7 because they're the days that you're most vulnerable. But yes, you basically shed your old skin. The sun damage on the face just peels off and reveals a new, smoother, glowier, pearl-like skin underneath. And that's where they've got that terminology of pearl from. Again, results are going to vary depending on the depth, the treatments, how many passes, and what the settings physically are when we're doing the treatment. Okay, so while the surface is peeling, what is happening deep down in the dermis? Let's talk about collagen and elastin, and we'll explain it using the mattress analogy because that's my favorite, but also maybe a little bit like a trampoline. I don't know, let's mix it up a little bit. Imagine your deepest skin layer is like a trampoline. So collagen is the thick, heavy-duty fabric material, and the elastin is the bouncy metal springs holding it all together, right? So over time, especially under relentless Queensland sun or even Australian sun, let's be honest, New Zealand, we have no ozone, it's great. The UV rays act like a pair of scissors, chopping up those springs and stretching out the fabric. It gets all saggy and like a trampoline. We don't keep trampolines forever. Why? Unless you're a kid back in the 90s like I was, those things just don't stop. They just keep going. But, you know, you get tears, you can see it fraying, and the springs, you can get a lot of bounce out of them because they're getting old and stretched, right? So your skin loses the bounce, it gets saggy, it develops dents, which we see in the form of wrinkles and texture. So the deep thermal heat from the erbium YAG does 2 things to your trampoline, all right, your skin. So first, it causes collagen denaturation, and this is just a fancy term for the shrink wrapping, all right? So the heat safely raises the temperature of those old stretched out collagen fibers, causing them to immediately contract, right? So when they contract, they tighten and they shorten, which is a good thing. It's like putting a baggy wool sweater in a hot dryer. It instantly shrinks back to shape. And that's kind of what you're going through this process for, right? Secondly, the heat triggers a massive cellular wake-up call. The skin cells release heat shock proteins. We love heat shock proteins. We've talked about this in another video, which acts like an emergency group chat, you know, for the skin. They send out urgent text messages to the fibroblasts, the tiny factories that make your skin structures and structural support, so the fibroblasts, and they say, hey, we need brand new springs, we need them now, new trampoline mat immediately, let's go. That's the wound cascade. They're like, there's trauma, there's damage, things are tightening, we need help, let's send in the fibroblasts. This then triggers a massive continuous wave of collagen and elastin to continuously synthesize over 4 to 6 weeks after your treatment. So even though you're not having to isolate inside after say 5 to 7 days, you still go out and about, this treatment continues to work for 4 to 6 weeks, and the best results and the end results you'll see in 3 months. So it's a long-term game. Nothing that we're going to do is a one treatment fix, and we don't do quick fixes because that doesn't work. It's going to take 3 months to get the absolute healed final result, okay? So you are physically rebuilding, and you're physically rebuilding a tighter, bouncier trampoline from the inside out. And your body is doing that all by itself, which is just absolutely incredible, right? So now, when would we recommend this laser, the Erbium YAG, over different lasers? So a lot of people ask me about the fractional laser. Fractional lasers are fantastic. I love them. I have them here as well. But they only treat a tiny fraction of the skin at a time, because the great thing about it is it keeps the tissue intact, and we'll talk about that in another video. But with that tissue that remains in place, it's not treated per se. So this means you have to keep coming back for a few different treatments to get the full benefits, but this is something we'll discuss in another video. Because Pearl is uniquely protected by the built-in biological screen protector, we can safely treat 100% of the skin in a single pass. Most of the time, depending on how damaged you are, I do recommend, if you can tolerate it, a second pass. Just because you're here, you're numb, we want to get you the best results. I don't want to have you keep coming in all the time. I love all my clients. The ones that I take on, I'm going to give them my absolute all, and I want to give them options. But also I understand that this isn't a treatment that you can have every so often. There is downtime associated with it, and there are risks, which we will also discuss. So this means you get the complete global hairline to jaw, even down a little bit, epidermal renewal. It's completely, it can really assist with turning back years of model sun damage, uneven pigment, fine lines. In most of the time, I recommend one session every 12 months, depending on how severe you are. But if you're happy with one, that's great. Let's work on how we can maintain that, or how we can enhance the results that you've gotten after one treatment with other different lasers that aren't so aggressive. But you can have this, if you love the results, every 12 to 18 months. I would personally recommend. That's just my opinion. So how I usually run this one here in clinic, because I am a registered nurse, I am allowed to apply topical numbing, and we do use a scripted numbing agent, which we apply here in clinic, just because, again, I want to see how the skin reacts. I want to see how numb you are. I want to make sure that's applied correctly. If you're going to have a reaction, most of the time it's going to be with something that you're not using all the time, which is usually a numbing, right? It is a medication. And then we wait, depending on the instructions of the particular numbing that we have in for you, as each numbing is scripted to each individual client. So that takes about 30 minutes to make sure that you're all numbed up, all right? And the actual treatment itself takes about 30 minutes all up, just depending on your pain tolerance. We make sure you have a squeezy ball. You can come in and bring your own distractions. So we do recommend, what do you want to listen to? We can turn the music up, we can turn the music down, we can have a different smell in the room. You want the blankets on, you want the blankets off, whatever you need to feel comfortable to have this treatment done. We do try and accommodate, as long as it's not messing with my field that I need to be clean for this procedure, all right? And then, yeah, with the social downtime, it's usually 5 to 7 days, I always say. So social downtime means that you're swollen, you don't want to go outside, you're red, you're flaky, you don't feel like doing anything. That's what we mean by social downtime. After this time, yes, you're still going to be red because you're rebuilding your entire skin barrier, but you can go outside and it's not going to be as horrific, basically. But social downtime means that you probably don't want to leave the house. I mean, you can be brave and you can go out and do whatever you want. I'm all the power to you. But most people do like to have that isolation for about 5 to 7 days, just to make sure everything's healed up. On that note, let's have the mandatory, very serious Nurse Loren chat. Under the strict APRA guidelines, we need to treat even non-surgical cosmetic intervention as a serious medical procedure, because they are. I say this all the time. I will not downplay anything. We're burning tissue and you're regrowing your entire epidermis. So it's a serious procedure, right? We're working with high power class 4 medical grade lasers. And it requires clinical respect. It honestly does. And that's why not everyone has these lasers or this technology. So while the Erbium YAG has beautiful and in-depth safety profile, and it's predictable in its performance because we can really hone in all the settings to make it just for you, it is not a basic facial. It is not a basic laser facial. It is a non-surgical cosmetic intervention, and it does carry risks. So the potential adverse events can include prolonged redness. Your heal time is completely up to you and your genetic makeup. If you take longer to heal, it's going to take longer to heal. We are creating a wound. If you have redness, erythema, like prolonged redness is up there with some of the risks, okay? Temporary swelling. You can have pinpoint bleeding. You can have changes of the skin's pigmentation, especially post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation, if you don't stay out of the sun. It is very important to follow your aftercare, okay? But also, we need to discuss the less common side effects, which are you can blister, you can burn, and you can get an infection. Okay, again, I have trust issues. I want you to come back and see me on day 1, 3, and 7 because these are risks, and I want to try and mitigate these risks as soon as anything even looks remotely like it's going to happen. So this is exactly why we never skip steps. The consultation is always a mandatory first gate. You cannot book this in on the day and say, I want this done tomorrow. I want you to think about it. I want you to have informed consent. I want to order in your numbing, which can take a week. This isn't something that we go into lightly. I want you to have that cooling off period to make sure that you are making the correct decision for yourself. You might need to have that time off work. There is that isolation period that people don't feel like going out and seeing someone. These are all things we take into consideration when we are planning this treatment. So before we even turn on a laser, you must have your assessment done. We talk about your Fitzpatrick, your type, your medications, your history, what's going on. Do you have a risk of keloid scarring? These are all things we really need to discuss. Because the Erbium laser targets the epidermis, it is ideal for lighter to medium skin tones, but this is not a universal laser treatment. It is genuinely not suitable for deeper global skin tones due to the risk of pigmentation changes. And when we say that, we mean hyperpigmentation. We can actually remove the pigment from your skin and it will not come back. And I would prefer not to have that on my conscience, and I don't think you would either. So laser genesis that we spoke about in our last video, absolutely safe for all skin types. This one, it's not. We really need to do assessments, and in even a Fitzpatrick 3 or 4, we're going to do a test patch to make sure that it's safe for you to have done. Okay, we'll also review medication. We'll review your medical history. If you have pacemakers, can be a tricky one depending on the device that you do have inserted into your body. We make sure you don't have any active skin infections with this. If you have had any cold sores, we do recommend that you do start a over-the-counter medication to ensure that we're suppressing those herpes virus. So there's a whole lot of protocols and procedures that we do put in place, and there is a bit of prep work that you need to do to ensure that you are decreasing the risks as much as we physically can. Okay, so yeah, antifungals, yeah, antiviral, to ensure that your skin barrier is prepped and healthy prior to even going into this procedure. So we also send you home. Again, I have trust issues included in the cost of any of the treatments like this that we do here in clinic. You do go home with the products that you need for success, and they could be Prepara, they could be Is Clinical, they could be Mesosthetics. It's just whatever I deem or discuss with you to be the best fit for you and your skin and your journey and what you're trying to accomplish. Okay, so that is something that I also like to give all my patients, okay, to make sure that you are built up for success. That is very important. Okay, so prepping the skin to ensure that once we trigger that collagen synthesis, your skin has the right cellular nutrients it needs to rebuild perfectly. All right, so that's something that's really, really important.